Good afternoon, everybody. May I kindly confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon and welcome to this dynamic session hosted by the Academic and Research Library sector. We are delighted to have you with us this afternoon, and thanks a lot for bringing the invitation and also making time to attend this important session themed from 4 to 6, writing a conference. Colleagues, as you might be aware, the deadline for submission for the 2025 LIASA conference is just around the corner, on the 16th of May 2025. So today's session could not have at a time. And for those that have already submitted their abstract, this is also an opportunity for you to refine, to rethink, and also to rework on those abstracts, because I believe there's also an opportunity for you to resubmit should you want to make any changes as you might have submitted. And under the guidance of one of our sector's most respected voices, Mwepe, this is also an opportunity where we will learn more about writing abstracts, those ideas into concepts that can be shared as best practices with our colleagues, with nationally and also internationally, because this what we're going to learn today will also help us in terms of writing abstracts for other conferences, not only the LIASA conference. And colleagues, this is actually a set of a series where we'll also be having follow-up webinars or sessions targeted specifically at presenting at a conference, presenting your paper or poster or even your abstract at the conference. And later, we'll also have one for academic writing and publishing as well. So converting your conference abstract into a publishable paper. So all those sessions will be shared on the LIASA mailing made as well. So be on the lookout for links and register for those sessions. So colleagues, I'm not gonna waste more time. I will just hand over to Mwepe just to give a brief background of Prof. Mwepe. He's the Executive Director of Library and Information Services at the University of South Africa, UNISA, and he's also a renowned scholar. Prof. Mwepe previously served as the Director of the School of Arts and the Head of Department of Information Science at the University of South Africa. And he's currently serving as the Editor-in-Chief of the South African Journal of Information Science. So for those of you that will be submitting the papers that you're presenting at the conference, these will be converted into conference proceedings and they will be published in the South African Journal of Libraries and Information Science. Prof. Mwepe is also a really appointed advisory member of information development. This is an international journal by SAGE, and he's also a proud C2 NRF researcher with an impressive record of scholarly publications from academic to thought-provoking newspaper or journal articles. Over to you, Prof, for honoring the invitation and also sharing the skills with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Mohadi, and good afternoon, colleagues, and thanks for the introduction. I hope I can be heard properly because you were breaking during the introductory remarks. I don't know whether it was from my side. You can just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me properly so that I can start now.
Yeah, audible, Prof. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm not going to share I'm not going to switch on the video. The brief for me was to talk about the abstract writing. And thank you for the invitation, Mohadi. And then the title was actually even coined by Mohadi, saying from thought to theme, writing winning conference abstract. I don't know if the abstract can win, but what I know is that Pirates have lost, and I don't know where Romeo is now. Maybe Ezekiel in the Valley of the dry bones can be able to help in that regard, but I'm not going to dwell much in that. And in terms of this, I would not say that I'm an expert. As I discussed with Mohadi, in my village, they say in the land of the blind, a person with one eye is the king. So I'm going to beg you to allow me to be a king for this moment up until the end of this webinar, and we will be able to discuss thereafter. So without due waste of time, I am going to put things into perspective. I will just take you through why an abstract, the scope, the structure, example, and a conclusion. The reason why it is so short is because an abstract itself is just a paragraph. So for me, a request to facilitate this is a tall order, but there are things that we do observe when there are calls for papers. I would like to kickstart the presentation with a quote that I use most often, which is attributed to Mark Twain, the author of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, which is the book is based in Mississippi and the surrounding. When he said, I would have made this letter shorter, but I didn't have enough time. So for me, this saying is very loaded because if a person doesn't have enough time, it means he just write a lot of things to explain himself. But if you have time, you'll be able to make a, a letter shorter, or even an article shorter, or even be able to present your thesis, which is 300 pages in 3 minutes. That is the power of time, and then the power of engaging with the one's particular work. So our motivation for conference papers, we may have many other motivations. The biggest one is knowledge and information sharing. As we present and we network in the conferences, that's why we submit a abstract. And sometimes, for some of us, we try out new ideas in the conference to see if it really works or it will work. And others, they hone their research skills through the conference and getting the feedback from the peers after the discussions. And others is for recognition, visibility, and ego that you have presented. And others is a job requirement, actually, that you should also be presenting in conferences. And in that regard, it affects the job career learning requirement. And others, it also work towards a proprietary and ownership, because after that presentation, you may be able to publish in the conference proceedings or in the journal. The reason why Mohadi also called in this webinar is because in the past 2 editions, we wanted to publish conference proceedings and also wanted to publish some papers in Sagilis. But when we evaluated the end, we found that they are not really meeting the minimum requirements to be in Sagilis, because it's an accredited journal, and also conference proceedings because it will also need to be accredited by the DHET, so that the authors can also get the subsidies. So hence, it was necessary that we call in this and then discuss going forward. So having said that about the motivation, the reality is that many people experience failure and frustration before they find a proper way of writing, their writing style. It is difficult, but those who have mentors, they are able to write and then develop further. But if you are alone in the ocean, you might even be devoured by the sharks. So the people without mentors, they struggle, and never even be on an equal footing with their counterparts. So learning to write takes time because it also requires that a person must read and read and read. We don't encourage a situation wherein we say we are flying an aeroplane, and then we can build the wings while we are flying. We are highly likely to fall. So this is the problem that most of the novice researchers do. They read and write. They don't read, and then start writing. So LIASA annual conference theme is out, as Mohadi has said, and the conference is in September. The theme is libraries as innovation hubs, empowering communities. And then there is all the requirements there. The date is 16 May, and we are calling for abstracts. Hence, now we are going to talk about the abstract. I was just introducing the introduction. And now, what is an abstract? An abstract is a short summary of completed research paper in our context, this context that we are talking now. And it's intended to describe the work without going into greater details. And it should be self-contained, concise, and explain the work as briefly and clearly as possible. In the context of the conference paper, an abstract is like a proposal. If you give us a proposal like the one given above, and then in the paper you give us something below, then it's totally different from what you have promised. But this is a reality that we often face, whether at the conference paper level or whether at the thesis or dissertation level. So an abstract in this context, in short, is just a proposal about the paper that you'd like to present. But I'm still going to discuss something that is a bit of a contradictory to what we require in terms of an abstract and then the process thereof. So where do we start the so what of the conference paper taken from Sylvain 2013? So as we start, we look at what is the relevant of the relevancy of the article to the applicable field. In this regard is the information science. And then as is information science, but we also look at the theme, which is given there. We have to look at the relevancy of what we are going to write about to this theme of libraries as innovation hubs, empowering the communities. And as you are preparing the paper, the abstract, you also have to look at the relevance of that, what you are choosing to the policy. If it's relevant to the policy, it can add anything to policy or academic research and writing or theory and practice. So it is important so that we don't just present for the sake of presenting. I saw last year when we had a call for papers, people will just say the role of libraries in SDGs. But we know that the libraries have got a role in SDGs. We are not even specific, but we know that the library has a role in SDGs. So it's not something that we don't know. So we need the specific relevancy and what you are trying to solve in this regard. And as you start with the title, which is equals to the content signpost for the paper. And the title should identify the field of research and instigate the story that the results or findings are outlining, and raise questions in the mind of the reader, and cover the phenomenon, the participant, and the context. Phenomenon must be an information phenomenon because we are in library and information science field. We are not going to address something that is outside the field in our conference unless if it is inter or multidisciplinary, but the information phenomenon must reflect in that aspect. And the participants must be clear or implied, and the context must also be clear. I will just give example as we go along. And the purpose of the title is to attract readers to your in this regard is to your presentation, and then later it will be to your article. So you must provide as much relevant information as possible, but keep it concise. Remember that the article must not exceed 20 words. So, and use keywords prominently, and the title should attract attention, but also be picked up by literature scanning services so that it can be retrievable. Normally, there is a noun, phrase, statement, or question in the title, and then you have to avoid ambiguity in noun phrases and avoid more than one possible meaning just in the title so that people can be able to see what you are going to talk about, unless it's a thought-provoking article. So if you are given an open title like open access publication in sub-Sahara Africa, I wanted this to be interactive, but it might not be possible because I would not be able to see the hands. So if we are given an open title like that, the purpose, you turn the title into the purpose, and then you also problematize the title. You get the problem from the title. If a title is given like that, you know what would be the purpose. The purpose, obviously, it will be either to investigate or to explore open access publication in sub-Saharan Africa. But most of the time when people are going to write what the paper will investigate, instead of if they are given a title like that, whether the current title is right or wrong, a person would not say it is to explore or investigate open access publication in sub-Saharan Africa, but they will talk about other things, or maybe some would even mention transformative agreements there or other things that are not reflected in the title. Already you are going outside to what you promised as the title. And if you state a problem in that abstract as well, the problem should revolve around open access publication, even if you are unable to situate it within sub-Saharan Africa. But if there is, in general, there is open access publication challenges, you can be able to indicate that problem and then situate it in wanting to find out how is the situation in sub-Saharan Africa. That way is acceptable. But if you problematize it not along the open access publication, then it becomes a problem. Remember earlier on, I talked about the phenomena, the participant, and the context. If you look at this one, the phenomena is open access. And open access is also an information phenomenon. It's relevant to LIS. And then the context is sub-Saharan Africa. And the participant here is publications that you will be looking at in terms of the participant, although they can be secondary participants if you are going to have interviews. And if you look at methodology, in this type of the study, it can follow any type of methodology. It can be quantitative, it can be qualitative, it can be mixed method. But whatever problem that you have defined, you can be able to say this problem can be solved through this methodology. Then you list that methodology and how that is going to be applicable to your study. And there is always the issue of saying that the study, when people are submitting proposals or abstracts or articles, people are saying that, or the reviewers will say that there is nothing original. So to help you to identify the originality of the research, whether it's a practice-based paper or whether it is a theoretical paper or an opinion paper, we always look at the types of research gaps, which is a theoretical gap, methodological gap, empirical gap, conceptual gap, temporal gap, spatial gap, and literature gap. There might be many more gaps, but these are some of the examples that can say that as you write, as you propose, these are the gap that you are trying to address. And then in this slide, I've given the definition of each gap and the example and how it can be addressed. The presentation will be shared with you so that you are able to see how to identify those gaps in your presentation. So what is the importance of the abstract? Why is the abstract important? It serves many purposes because many reviewers or editors or people who are organizing conference, they only read the abstract and it convinces the reader to read further, the abstract. Because if your abstract, you're submitting to such a list and then your abstract is disorganized and I don't know what you're talking about, I can reject it at the editorial level without even sending it to peer review. So abstract is important. We used the abstract to determine if the topic, method, and results are suitable for the journal, and in this regard for the conference, before even we go to the paper. And it is also used to drive keywords for searchable databases, because even the literature search librarians, if they assist you in searching, they use the abstract. Even also, if you want to find the correct journal for your article, you can just paste your abstract. It will direct you where to go. That's why I'm sometimes confused by the librarians who, when they put the keywords under the keywords section, they repeat keywords that are in the title. As a librarian, you're not supposed to do that because the keywords in the title by default they will be picked up by the engine searches because they are already in the metadata field for the title. So you have to put keywords that are not there, but in the title, or sometimes not even in the abstract, but that are talking about that particular paper. Besides the primary keywords. So it is important for information retrieval that when you put keywords, you put those that are not in the title as well. And then the abstracts helps a lot with the keywords because it itself it's able to pick up the keywords. And the purpose is to enable readers to identify the basic contents of your paper when you write the abstract. And it determines the relevancy of the paper to the conference theme. Because if we are saying we are talking about partnerships and then you as the theme, but you are writing about something else, we are able to pick up that there is no issue of partnership in the abstract. So it should express the central idea of the proposed paper and the key points. And it should also suggest any implications or application of the research as it may relate to the theme of the conference. And if your proposal is that way, and then at the end you are unable to, the picture that is given, you are unable to embed that horse on the stairways, then you are using the ribbons and everything, then that is something else. This is the controversy that I wanted to bring. Normally, the golden rule is that do not write an abstract for any conference, for any paper before you have written the paper. This is the controversy that I said I wanted to bring, in the sense that we issued the call for papers late, and then the people haven't had the time to write the papers. So now they are using the abstract as a proposal towards the paper that they are going to write. It means that they are writing it without a certain information at hand. So in this regard, in the conference format, the abstract serves as the proposal towards the paper or the concept towards the paper. But the rule of the thumb is that even when you write a paper, when you write a thesis, a dissertation, a report, you don't write an abstract first. The abstract is actually the last thing that you write so that you summarize and summarize the whole paper. But in the case of the conference, we normally put the cart before the horse. Hence, sometimes we don't get the desired results. This is that controversy that I said I wanted to bring to the table. What an abstract is not, it is not a document that contains meaningless information, and you don't refer to illustration and tables. And usually it does not contain references unless otherwise it is necessary, maybe for the footnotes or for something, but it doesn't contain the reference. It's only very, very few abstract that contains references. But in the submission that we receive, you find that many people are making references in the abstracts, which is not required. So it should state the principal objective and scope of your research, the principal objective, and then the objective of the purpose is just turning the title into that objectives without doing a lot of things. And then the scope of what the coverage is, and you describe the methodology if it is an empirical study, and briefly summarize the results. 1, 2, not exceeding the 3 key results, and then the key conclusion. But most of the time, people don't include this. Even if it's a practice-based paper, sometimes practice-based paper are also, they do involve empirical research, because you might have used autoethnography or any, because you are involved, or participatory action research. In that regard, you just have to indicate that you are based this, because it is your involvement in that particular paper. But if it's a research, you indicate how it is being conducted. And structured and unstructured abstract. Some journals prefer structured abstracts, and at Liasa and also at Sagilis, we are using unstructured abstract. Structured abstract is that one that is got the headings as a background, purpose, methodology, limitations, and results, and everything. But we using the unstructured ones, but all these elements can be included in the abstract without following any order. That is a very key. In unstructured one, you don't follow any order when you put them, but it just have to be coherent in terms of the flow of information. But in the structured one, it follows that order, and each has got its own field. So, but for us, the elements must be there, but it doesn't have to follow any order as long as the document is readable and is coherent. And it must include some background information, which will be background information and a problem statement, the purpose of the study and the scope, some information on the methods. It mustn't exceed 2 sentences, and the key results, and a concluding statement or recommendation. This is normally what is required in the abstract for unstructured abstract, but the structured one, it will indicate what you should have in the abstract. And then that structure of the abstract is an introduction, purpose and motivation, methodology, findings, and implications. The introduction in the abstract, I'm talking about introduction in the abstract, not introduction in the paper. You provide a brief background statement, also with a problem statement. And that is a clear statement of the content of the topic. And then thereafter, yes, you explain the problem or the key research question or the reason for writing the article, and you give details on that research problem, and then explain why it is unique. In that regard, you may even use the saying, previous work has failed to address A, B, C. So it is still allowed in that regard. But bear in mind the word counts, the word limits in the abstract, so that it doesn't exceed the word limit. In case of the Liasa conference, is 250 words, if not mistaken. Mahadi will confirm that as well.
That's correct.
And how have you approached the research question? This is the methodology. You also indicate that for empirical study, but it is also applicable to some or most of the practice-based papers. how you achieved your objectives, how did you go about conducting the research, what was the main approach, design, data collection method, and then the theoretical scope that you apply. And what were your key findings? And then how did you analyze? What is the implications of the findings? What do they mean to the reader or to you? And then you leave the reader to interpret for themselves. And it is also important that you divide the length according to percentage. These are not fixed formulas, but the recommended one is that 25% must be on focus, purpose, and motivation, which included the background and the problem as well. The other 25% of that abstract should be on methodology, and 35% on findings and then recommendations, and then 15% on implications and conclusions. So it does help to restrict you that you are not out of the line, because sometimes some people will write abstract, you find that 80% is just on background. Sometimes others is just 80% is just on methodology, or 80% is on findings, or 80% is on implications. So try to balance in the abstract so that a person can be able to get an idea of what the study is all about. Hence, I'm saying that the editors, they determine by the abstract whether they should send it to the reviewers, or they reject it at that level. And just imagine if you have written a very good paper, but the abstract is poor, then you lose that because of that poor abstract, that you could not summarize it. So I'm just giving an example of one of the paper that I've done. And Mohadi also did indicate that earlier on that in my style of writing, I like putting some issues that might not look relevant to the theme, but I qualify it with either a subtitle or the title itself. Like in this one, I say, let us go together to reach uncharted territory. That is the end goal for me. That then the subtitle will be Academic Library Partnerships and Collaboration with Stakeholders in South Africa. So in this regard, when you look at the issue of the theme, it will be aligned with the sub-theme 4, Partnership for Innovation. So the first part, although is a proverbic in nature, it is also part of the desired result, and then it is as part of the solution, and then also describing the subtitle, which is about partnership and collaboration, library partnerships and collaboration. So, and then the participant here will be the stakeholders, which are yet to be identified in this, and then the context will be in South Africa, in the context of academic libraries in South Africa. So as you write, make sure that the title meets all those three basic requirements that I mentioned: the phenomenon, the participants, and the context. They are there. And then the other one was just a solution for me, and then the desired result as well, and also the eye-catching for the reader, so that you will know how can we, if we go together, how can we reach the uncharted territories. And then as I go, example of that, the abstract for that, the motivation or importance of the issue. You can see, check the title, the title of that proverb, let us go together. And then I go by starting linking the title to the first sentence by talking about the adage, which link to that particular title. And then also situating home to academic libraries, that it is also relevant, especially in the low resource environment. So, and then as now looking at the papers and background is that the paper now share best practice. This paper is not solving a particular problem, but the problem it might be there in the background, but it is sharing best practice, because not all the time we are solving a particular problem. Sometimes you had your own problem, and then you were able to overcome it. Now you are sharing best practice on how to overcome such issue. Mostly this is especially with the practice-based papers. And then thereafter, you also look at the implication of that research as in that particular abstract. And then you remember I said this one is not an empirical study, but yet I'm able to put the methodology there, a line about the methodology, because I used my own experience of solving that particular issue, coming up with that best practice. Then also, because I'm not just using my experience alone, I'm also analyzing documentation that is at my disposal. So I add that, because sometimes people write about practice-based papers and then they said, but it's not a research. It is a research because there are methodologies or designs that cover you that you can also be able to apply. And in the case of this one, it will be autoethnography based on my experience and also document analysis that are at my disposal. And then I provide the highlights of what I get in that research, and then also indicating the bigger contribution in terms of the SDG that is addressing SDG goal 4, 10, and 17. And then in the conclusion, I conclude that to optimize resources, including all the financial, human, and technological, we can pursue formal partnership through signing of MOUs. This is based on what I've already discussed. I hope it will be able to make sense. And then normally this one, it was not part of this presentation. It's just that the introduction of the paper itself. When you introduce the paper, these are the issues that you have to look into. That you must know that an effective introduction is critical, because after the abstract, this is what the editor, reviewers, and readers will read. And the reviewers will also scan this and then look at the contribution, or whether you have identified gaps and the suitability to the journal, and in our cases to the conference. And these are the 5 stages of a good introduction. You locate your research project, the references, because sometimes people just scan through the references and then just for the sake of saying that we have got references, whereas they are not reviewing the literature optimally. And then the research gap, the statement of the problem, and then also the logical steps in that. The reasons why abstracts are rejected is because, like I said earlier on, the contribution to the body of knowledge, literature in a specific discipline. So as you write the abstract, look at what is contribution in terms of policy, practice, theory, field of study, and all those other research gaps that I identified earlier on, so that we don't just present for the sake of presenting at the conference. We have to also add value so that people who attend the conference are able to take something home, and we are also able to publish your work in the journal or in the conference proceeding. And sometimes conceptual framework is also not indicated or not covered well even in the abstract. It is necessary, especially for the empirical studies, also looking at the construct that you are using. You don't have to use a certain theory that is not even relevant to your study. And sometimes the methodology used may be seriously flawed. The sample is too small, whereas it's a quantitative study, or the reliability or validity of the measure used are questionable, or the writing style of the author is disorganized, and the abstract is not structurally proper. And then the weight limits, like I'm saying, you must not exceed 250 words. You must be able to say it in 250 words. And luckily, I think the current system, it might not allow you to submit if you exit. I'm not sure. I hope it is configured in that way so that it saves also the time of the reviewers, because last year some abstracts were even up to 2 pages, whereas an abstract is supposed to be just 1 paragraph. And in conclusion, if you are rejected, you are not the first to be rejected. People have been rejected always. You are not the pioneer in rejection. Like I said, people have been rejected. Even the most experienced authors are anonymously rejected. So you have to acknowledge your feeling, seek support, and reflect on the feedback, because if you don't feel like checking the feedback there and there, later when you check it, you might see that yes, here you were not really in line. I always keep the what has been rejected. I always archive it, is that in future I just go back and look whether I still feel I can even revisit that after 5, 6 years or 20 years to see if that was really a legitimate thing to reject. But sometimes for the conferences, a rejection is not because your abstract is bad, it's because submission in a particular sub-theme is over subscribed. There are some sub-themes that are oversubscribed, and in that regard, we cannot take all of them unless if other themes are also not well covered. So sometimes it's the issue of quotas, and then you revise and resubmit where it is necessary, even in the level of the paper, and you be persistent to rework over and over again. And then we learn from the process, because a rejection is a part of writing. And then as you write, as you read, you learn. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I hope you can clearly hear me, colleagues, because it seems as if earlier on I was breaking. Thanks a lot, Prof, for that informative presentation. You've really covered a lot of areas, and also some of the areas that some of us need to improve on, particularly in terms of one of the danger areas of using an abstract as a proposal, as opposed to using an abstract as a summary of a paper that has already been written. And I think we also have to learn from the best practices, especially in terms of academia. If I can just give an example, when writing a dissertation or a thesis, you write the dissertation or thesis first, then the abstract comes after. But we, in most cases, do it the other way around when it comes to conference papers, where we first write the abstract and then the paper. And sometimes you'd find that as an author, you might have proposed something where you later find that the data is not even available in that area. Sometimes you might end up retracting your submission to that conference. So thanks a lot, Prof, and also striking a balance. Colleagues, you can also note your questions in the chat. I see there's a question from Nare. You may go ahead, Nare.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but there's an echo. I'm not sure if it's coming from my side or your side.
There is an echo.
You may try again, Nare.
Can you still hear me?
It's yeah, audible
Okay,
now.
try.
It's better. Yes.
Prof. Moape, thanks very much for an interesting presentation. And please forgive me for the echo in the background. I don't know why it's happening. Prof, I would like to find out, is it possible to submit an abstract based on the findings of secondary research, or that is the literature review? Is it possible for me to say, okay, I'm interested in presenting my paper based on the literature review alone? Why I'm asking is because academic research takes too long. It's a long journey. It's not an overnight thing. But you got my question. My question is, can I submit an abstract to present the results of the literature review alone, not the empirical findings? That's my question.
Prof,
Mahadi, I'll
did
be
you get
guided by
that
you.
question? You may go ahead, Prof.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, and Nare, for the question.
Mm.
The straightforward answer is yes, but in your research, you mustn't just duplicate the results of other previous authors. If you are using you are looking at the particular literature, which is going to be your population in what you are presenting, then it is better because it will still be an empirical study wherein you either using the systematic literature review, scoping, and all those others. As long as you don't just copy the findings of other previous researchers, you are actually aggregating them from different and say that the literature in South Africa in terms of this is leaning towards this and this. So that way it is acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the response. Just to wrap up, I don't want to take your time. Mpho, my biggest challenge is that I always want to submit, the abstract, but when you get this invitation from Liasa, the topic or the theme is always something else. I'm in knowledge management and sustainable development goals. So my research is about the SDGs and knowledge management. So I don't think I have a chance that my abstract will be accepted. So that's always the problem. Every year you get these invitations to submit abstracts, but the subject is always not what I'm doing. But thanks for an interesting presentation in Paul. Thank you, Mr. M.
Okay, for the this issue that you are raising about the theme, I think it will always fit. It's not that we are only looking at the libraries. What you need to do is look at the sub themes, and we have quite a number of sub themes for this conference. And then on the sub themes, look at what your issue, the knowledge management and the SDGs is addressing in all those, because it can still fall within partnership. It can still fall within the other sub themes. So you mustn't be limited by the libraries. The knowledge management itself can still fit in there. Because, for example, the people who are in an academic space, teaching space within information science, they will still find issue relating to teaching that particular theme. So you are able to bring it closer to your context. So it mustn't limit you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nari and Prof, for that. I see there's a question from Simpiwe. Prof is asking, he just wants to understand the difference between academic and practical papers. These are, I would suppose, case studies, or just sharing best practices from our environment. He just wanted to understand the difference between an academic and a practical paper when it comes to presenting at a conference. Are the requirements the same in terms of the structure?
Yes, like I said, the requirements are the same because the information, because even the practice-based paper, you can be able to publish it. The example that I just gave with the abstract and the title there, that is a practice-based paper. It's not a theoretical paper. It's something that we have already done, and then we are able to share it with the the participants. And I can be able to write a paper on that one and still publish it, but infuse the issue of research writing in that particular case that we are talking about. The theoretical one, academic, that what we may call academic, is that you don't even know what you will get when you investigate. You can just come up with a problem and they say that I want to investigate this problem wherever it's situated. You don't even know the results that you will get. And then, but with this practice-based, is what people have lived, what people have done, and then they are able to report on, and then you can just write it. You can summarize what in terms of abstract, what you will report on, and then write a paper as well. So those are a bit of a difference, but in terms of the abstract, it still follow the same procedure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Prof. Earlier on, you mentioned in terms of rejection and that a theme might be oversubscribed and there might be quotas. Just to highlight something as well, in addition to that, colleagues, sometimes you'd find that one person might be submitting 3 or 4 papers to a conference. So also to give other presenters an opportunity to also share their best practices can also help, instead of having one person presenting almost each and every day. So I think we can also keep that in mind, that this also enhances the over subscription of some themes, where you'd find that one theme, there's a lot of submissions as opposed to the others. I'm not sure if there are any questions, colleagues from the floor. You're more than welcome to raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have a burning question, or you can also use the chat option to engage with Prof. Any further questions, comments, or even recommendations from the floor? We might have a number of people that have presented at a conference before. I think your skills can also help this engagement. Right, while we're still waiting for questions, also one thing that we would also like to highlight, for the first time ever, colleagues, you would see that if you are planning to submit an abstract, and for those that have already submitted, there will be 2 options available for you to submit under the sector-based program, because each and every sector will have a program on a Wednesday during the conference week. So for example, if you are part of the public library sector or the academic and research library sector, and you'd like to present under that sector program, you can select that option, or submit under the main conference option. So there are 2 options available for this year. All right, I see a question for Berenice. My interest is libraries and disabilities. I have done a poster and a paper on accessibility, and my research was only academic libraries. Can I do another paper on disabilities and higher education? That's a question, Prof.
As long as there is an information phenomenon there, it is fine. But if I'm lacking the information phenomena, is more on education and inclusivity. but you have to bring in the information phenomena to situate it within our profession. Then it is acceptable.
Thanks a lot, Prof. And I see that she has submitted a poster. Yeah, there's also an opportunity for poster presentations. Okay, some I see they are comments.
I saw your comment about the role. What role does storytelling play in academic writing? Storytelling, just like reading, it plays an important role, because if you are not reading a lot, you won't be able to write. To learn how to write, you have to read. And then you come across different styles, and then you are able to triangulate those styles and do your own style. And the same as storytelling, if you're telling the storytelling is if it is a fictional storytelling, you don't just flow like saying that when I drive to Polokwane, I just go and pass Hammanskraal and then I reach Polokwane. No, you have to put in some lot of things inside and say that when we reach Hammanskraal, for example, that people call it a tender station of people who are traveling to Polokwane, and then you talk about people in Hammanskraal, and then up until you reach Polokwane. So that there are different types of storytelling for stories itself, and even for academic writing, and even for leadership. So it is very much important, storytelling, so that you know your audience for what you are writing for. It helps the same as writing. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. There's also another question from Izungu. Based on what you've shared earlier on about not including the references on the abstracts, how will one be able to identify if an author has used AI? I think this goes it's in line with the ethical norms of abstract writing. Can you kindly advise, Prof?
We are currently working on the updating our policy on AI so that it becomes relevant. But we don't, even though without the policy, we don't condone the use of generative AI for writing. Although for editing, we encourage it for editing, not for writing. But for the hence, even the reference, unless it is a statement by somebody that you need to put, or a different language that you need to put a footnote to explain in English, references are not encouraged in the abstract, but in a rare occasion they are used. But as for AI, we don't allow the use of AI. Even the papers that are submitted using AI, we have rejected quite a few this year that were generated through AI. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Prof. Colleagues, in one way or the other, sometimes it shows if one has used AI to generate an abstract, and sometimes if the reviewers do suspect, they do use the similarity checking tools as well. So as Prof has just indicated, it's really not advisable. We just have to be original and authentic as well. I'm not sure if, okay, I see there's a hand. Berenice, please go ahead. Do you have a question? Berenice, I see your hand is raised. While we're still waiting for our colleagues, any further questions or comments from the floor? Prof, I just have a question. In terms of international conference presentations or even submitting a paper to an international journal, for example, you'd find that your context is based on issues within a phenomenon in Africa or one of the provinces, for example, in South Africa. How can an author make it, how can one stand a chance of making the idea, especially if it's an abstract, to show that there is value to a larger audience globally? Because you'd find that sometimes your abstract is rejected, not because it's not good enough, but because it's not, it might not appeal to a general global audience at a conference. Thanks.
In that regard, when you prepare the abstract, look at the current issues in the international arena, like issues of social justice. Issues of social justice, even if the issue is a locality and it addresses social justice, link it to that. If you link it to that, you'll be able to get the audience that they accept the abstract. For example, if it's access to information in just a particular country here, you know it's a global issue, and then you address it from the social justice perspective. Then from African perspective, it will make it in that regard. But if you keep it to that level of you just say, I'm just giving example that indigenous libraries in Limpopo province, then it doesn't really it will look limited in terms of scope. But if you link it to the inclusivity, and in that way, a person, when he sees inclusivity, then is able to be open. But in terms of publishing, nowadays, I think the journals are not less worried about that because of the transformative agreements like open access. As much as it doesn't appeal to the global north, it might attract more audience in the global south because it is open access. Anybody anywhere can access it. But in terms of conference, if it doesn't appeal to a wider audience, they will highly likely to reject it. Just use the terminology that is used broadly and looking at also the SDGs and social justice is one of the keys, and inclusivity. Thank you.
Noted. Thanks a lot, Chair. I see a hand from Glenda Makate. Please go ahead, Glenda.
Okay, good day. Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay, I just want to find out regarding the AI, since Prof mentioned that we are discouraged to use AI in terms of the writing and so forth. So I just want to compare them in terms of the AI that we use socially and the AI that we have in the academic sphere. Like for the ones that are aligned with our databases, like the Clarivate AI, Scopus AI, and Canunians, is it the Canunians something AI? Those are the three AIs that I know that they support the academic. So I just want to find out in terms of the reviewing of the papers and so forth, do you also have a strict hand on that when someone wrote using it?
Yes, currently we encourage people to use their own brains and intellect to write. The only issue that we not strict on is the editing part of the AI. But for writing, any AI generated content, initiated generated content, we we don't condone, we don't allow it because we're still working on the policy. Up until that policy, when the policy is ratified, then it will give us a guidance. Now, remember, we are working without a policy. We're still using the old policies. So old policies still requires us to use our own intellect. So that is what is guiding us in this regard. So we don't accept them.
Thanks a lot, Chair. And I think also in terms of the issue of, for example, correcting the grammar as you've just highlighted, then one can use AI. For example, I know that there's a number of institutions that are subscribing to Grammarly and other tools for grammar. And you'd find that these tools have also incorporated AI. They actually help a lot in terms of ensuring that your abstracts are fluent, they are coherent, and the grammar is also correct as well. I'm not sure if there are any additional questions, colleagues from the floor. I still see a hand, Berenice. Or is it a legacy hand? Okay, I see there's a comment from Cecilia Rightful. Yes, absolutely. Rightful is also a helpful tool as well. Any further comments, colleagues? Last words? Right, I don't see anything further, Prof. So on that note, thank you so much, Prof, for this informative session and also the engagements from the colleagues. It really means a lot. Oh, can I unmute? Okay, let me
Before you
quickly unmute you.
before you conclude, I'm just want to encourage the colleagues to submit the abstracts. We don't like last year, we didn't really decline any abstract. We try to help the authors. It's just that people don't come on board later, so that we are able to develop our own writers from our own constituencies. So we encourage colleagues to submit abstracts, and then those that we see they are depending on the numbers that we get, we will try to build the colleagues to be able to present at the conference. The only challenge that we have is that it's from our side that the committee that it needs to be solved is that of issuing releasing the call for paper very late, so that this year, maybe if we can release it this year, for next year it will be better. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Prof. Berenice, I think you can go ahead. You are unmuted now. Berenice?
I can hear you, but can't you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah, I was actually about to not about 2 minutes ago. I almost decided not to submit anything, although in my heart I actually want to submit. But now I'm feeling I've waited too long. But proof my issue is being a librarian with a disability. I always use my own experience, and then I also interview other people with this, other librarians, or even students with disabilities as to how they experience the libraries in the academic universities. And I found, in South Africa, we don't really have a lot of laws for at the moment the presidential working group are busy with the Disability Act that they want to into law, but we wanted already last year, but they are so busy with revisions. And I feel that as a librarian with a disability, I want to put my voice out there. That so that when even if libraries is my passion, but disability as well. So I always like to talk about libraries, not just about the building. It is more about the services rendered to the disabled and the person with the disability, because we find different types of disabilities. So I'm not going to elaborate on the different types in the moment. And then how do we react? How do we treat that person with a disability when they come to the library? And I'm sitting with the thing that we ask, like the universities accept students to come and study, but then they are still struggling to get things at the library. You know what I'm saying? And my one paper, the research paper, I did look at my own library. I looked at Bosch because UCT declined, didn't want me there, which made me wonder why would they decline that? And that was to do with accessibility. But as a librarian, I feel that attitude is a big issue that a lot of disabled people outside, and just like the homeless, the aged, the marginalized, disability, the disabled group is also marginalized. So that is why I feel, seeing that in our conference halls, in the same time when the G20 is here, I feel now today, this year, I'm ready to do a paper. I might have taken it a bit too late, but I had so many other issues that I had to deal with. So would you advise me to send in my proposal or abstract?
Thank you, Berenice, for the questions and the comment. I'm giving you a title for your abstract, and then I'm going to charge you. You
Okay.
can you can start by saying from the horse mouth, and then colon, and then you give us what you need to do in that, and then write an abstract about that and submit it, because it will
Okay.
be coming from the horse mouth, and then you do it that way. Yes, I'm giving you a title. And then
Yes,
I'm saying you should submit. You start by saying from the horse mouth, and then colon, and then those experiences that you have, and then you write an abstract about what you are going to give us, and then you submit.
oh, now I need to get your details, contact details, so that I can just email you to sign. Is that correct?
Yeah. Then I will write my email in the chat box.
Okay. I'm actually busy writing a book on my experience of being a student at the first ever school, special cerebral palsy school for people for those years. Remember, apartheid, colored people. So I'm one of the products of ERA school. So I'm writing my book on my experience as a child at ERA school, and my my title is through the eyes of an pupil. But now this is such a wonderful topic, Doctor. So it's from the horse's
Yes.
mouth.
Yes,
Okay.
we are waiting for that abstract, and then we just declared in the webinar that you will submit, and then we are waiting for that abstract, and then we'll But if you
Okay,
if you
now.
need if you need to contact me further, this is my email, and then we can talk outside this year.
Yes.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Prof. and Berenice, for that. And you'll see, Berenice, when you submit the last theme of the conference, it speaks to library services to vulnerable communities. So you can
Yes.
just see it will fit with your abstract for the conference.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, colleagues. I'm not sure if there are any further questions or comments, but we're looking forward to your submissions. And remember that you have an option to submit either under your sector program or the main conference program. And you also have an option to either, if you want to just share a poster as well. We'll also have lightning talks as well. So the program for this year will be packed. We're looking forward to receiving those abstracts. And for those that have already submitted, you also have an opportunity to go and rework on those abstracts and also resubmit as well. And for those that will be submitting, all the best, good luck, and thanks a lot to Prof for your for sharing your knowledge and skills and also experience. We've really learned a lot from this session, and we are looking forward to having you again in future should we need any support or assistance in terms of, particularly in terms of academic writing, publishing, because as highlighted previously, colleagues have an option to submit papers as conference proceedings at the SAGIDIS. So we are looking forward, should you be available, to supporting in terms of sharing the skills and knowledge on how to submit a publishable paper. All right, colleagues, thank you so much. Please be on the lookout or on the next or upcoming sessions that will be shared with you. And thanks once again for honoring the invitation and dedicating time to attend. A blessed day further. Goodbye.
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 Goodbye, colleagues.